Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So glad to be here with you this morning, 6:05 a.m., and it's Labor Day. Labor Day. We're in September. The pumpkin spice lattes are out, and so are. I was getting a pumpkin spice latte the other day. I figured, you know what, I'm going to go get one. And I was thinking to myself, man, liberals really know how to make coffee. I wouldn't want anybody else making my coffee other than a liberal. For all that they are, I will say that they do know how to make a good cup of coffee. I like the cream. I like the sugar. But we've got so much to get to this morning. Happy Labor Day. Maybe you're, cooking some breakfast for the kids this morning. We're off. It's the last hurrah for the summer. Maybe you're traveling today. Text me. Let me know what your Labor Day plans are. 309-451-9299. We've got so much to get to today. I do want to walk us through. I'm not going to get to a whole lot of brand new news today in the 6 o'clock hour. Now, I do have some brand new news. I do want to debunk this interview that Kamala Harris did. I watched the full 27 minutes. It wasn't a whole lot of policy that she was discussing policy, but it wasn't as much as I was hoping for. I was hoping she would do like a sit-down interview for at least 45 minutes to an hour. It was a 20-minute pre-edited or pre-recorded, which means edited, heavily edited interview. But it was all lies on CNN. So we're going to get to that, and I want to debunk a lot of things that she had said. She said that she wasn't for fracking anymore. This woman has no values. We're going to get to it. Kamala Harris's interview, Dana Bash. I also want to get to RFK Jr.'s running mate dropping this hilarious clip, Trump Derangement Syndrome. I was driving around Bloomington the other day. I was on Hovey Avenue, and I was driving down. Somebody had an Eric Swanson, Sharon Chung sign, and I was like, okay, these people are very rabid. And then I saw the Harris sign. But then I saw, and this just tells you all you really need to know about this election, it was a sign that had Donald Trump's hair on it. It was like a silhouette of Donald Trump's hair. And then it said nope on it. It just said nope. And it was Donald Trump's hair. It's a very clever sign. But that tells me that that person who lives at that residence 100% is a victim of Trump Derangement Syndrome. They're only voting for Eric Swanson. They're only voting for Sharon Chung. They're only voting for Kamala Harris because they don't like this guy. And this is one of the best ads I've ever seen, and it was dropped by RFK Jr.'s running mate. We're going to get to that. Plus, you got to meet the woman screwing over Donald Trump, RFK Jr., and all of the voters who plan to vote for these guys. RFK Jr. This is the Secretary of State of Michigan. And this is a big deal because she's forcing RFK Jr. to stay on the ballot, although he wants to drop his name from the ballot. Obviously, he's endorsed President Donald Trump, and he wants to remove his name from the ballot. She says, nope, you can't remove your name from the ballot because you're a third-party candidate. But get this, the same Secretary of State from Michigan, she wants to kick Colonel West, that's who it is, Colonel West, off of the Democratic ticket. And that person is a third-party candidate, but it's a third-party candidate, you see, that's going to take away votes from the Kamala Harris ticket. So we're going to get to the Michigan Secretary of State and what she's doing there. It's very undemocratic. First, let's play this clip. Nicole Shannon. Shananan. She is Robert Kennedy Jr.'s running mate. And whatever state he's running in, or Democrats are forcing him to run in, just dropped what I've seen is the best political ad I've ever seen. I think that this is the best political ad that they could have dropped. She is the running mate for RFK Jr. in the states that he is planning to stay on the ballot for. He said that he's going to stay on the ballot for blue states and red states, and that he's going to try to drop his name from swing states, which we'll get to in just a second. He can't drop his name from. They're trying to say that he can't drop his name in Wisconsin and he can't drop his name in Michigan. So She's his running mate for whatever states he's still running in, or Democrats are forcing him to run in. They dropped this. Do you or someone you know suffer from what's called TDS? If so, tell them about this commercial. It might help.
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump Derangement Syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America, simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like,
Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy.
And I instantly believed it. With independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who are a corrupt oligarchy that censors free speech, silences political opponents, supports forever wars, and abandons democracy by anointing its candidates.
Independence may not be for everyone. If you enjoy being lied to about your president's cognitive abilities, support Orwellian totalitarianism, or are excited about communist fiscal policy, independence may not be right for you. Common side effects of independence may include an awakening of rational thought, successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
I used to blindly hate whoever my party was running against. I didn't care about facts or policy because I was hopelessly indoctrinated. With independence, I'm much more interested in policies that uphold democracy, and I truly care about the health of our country and its citizens.
Ask your doctor if independence is right for you, and enjoy your freedoms once again.
Independence. Yes. So if you're suffering, or if someone you know is suffering from TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, there's a little cure. There's a cure for that. It's called independence. So the Trump 2024 ticket. Reason why I bring this up, obviously RFK Jr.'s team dropped as his running mate, Nicole, dropped this, her team. And this is an American ticket because RFK Jr. makes this ticket bipartisan. This is a bipartisan populist administration. And I've been saying that Trump needs a version of like Trump haters for Trump coalition, because there's so many like Trump haters who hated him in 2016. Hell, even his own running mate, JD Vance, didn't like him in 2016. But there needs to be like a coalition of people who disagree with the right, but can't stand the left. There's definitely people out there. And I think that RFK Jr., I mean, this is that building of coalition. Okay. This is what the Trump team is building. They're kind of building a coalition of Trump haters for Trump with RFK Jr. because, this is now a ticket, a bipartisan ticket for those who can't really agree on everything on the right. But they also can't stand the left. So this is that ticket, and I'm very excited because I think that this is going to really help him in the general. RFK Jr. and Trump, if nothing else, agree on the most important issue: how dangerous Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are for this country. And what school teacher, by the way, goes to China? This is Tim Walz. He goes to China 30 times. Okay. What school teacher has done that? I mean, you begin to question, is this guy a foreign agent? Is he working with the Chinese? You go to somewhere 30 times, okay, you go to a restaurant, 5 times, you're considered a regular. This guy, he goes into China and they've got a drink named after him. They, celebrate him and, clap for him when he gets off the plane at this point, because he's a regular to a country, a Chinese communist country. So RFK Jr., there's people on the right who are kind of missing the point. I'm going to be honest, because conservatives, they criticize this alliance, and I don't like RFK's policies, especially when it comes to abortion. Okay. I don't like his policies when it comes to abortion. I think that it's huge that we finally have a candidate, or at least a candidate who's aligning himself with somebody who's talking about getting the poison out of our bodies. Donald Trump actually said this at a rally, I believe over this weekend, where he said, we have to start getting the poison out of our bodies. And finally, if for nothing else, vote for Trump because of that, right? I think we can all agree that we got to get the poison out of our bodies. The fact that you can get one of those little cosmic brownies, I love those things, but they're like 500 calories and they never go bad. I mean, they'll be good until 2060, right? If you were to buy one today. So like I said, they agree on the most important thing, which is that Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, they are going to be terrible for this country and they're going to be bad for free speech in this country. And quite literally, I think they're communists. Kamala Harris, clearly a communist. Tim Walz, he might even just be, a Chinese foreign agent at this point. I mean, 30 times you're a school teacher. How do you even get to China 30 times on a school teacher's salary? I don't know. It's a little bizarre. Tulsi Gabbard has opinions that I don't agree with, obviously. She has been brought on board, not as a foreign policy advisor. I don't agree with Trump or Tulsi Gabbard's foreign policy, but she's been brought on board because she's going to prep Donald Trump for debates against Kamala Harris. Considering the last time Tulsi and Kamala were on stage, she just completely annihilated Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard did. I think that's a good move. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard effectively ended Kamala's first presidential run. And I think that this former Congresswoman, Tulsi Gabbard, will have a few helpful pointers for Donald Trump because Tulsi Gabbard, she completely destroyed Kamala Harris up on that debate stage. There's a lot of voters like Amber Rose out there. I don't like Amber Rose. I wasn't a big fan of her speaking at the RNC convention. However, it doesn't really matter what I like. Okay, what matters is that we get Trump in. And she suffered from TDS because she believed what the media told her. And now she's got the cure. It's called independence. And she said, quote, at the RNC convention, we just did our research and we're not brainwashed by the left anymore. We're not brainwashed by the media. She believed everything the media told her. Amber Rose, who's a celebrity who spoke at the RNC. People believe this nonsense about joy and vibes and it's just a cool ticket. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Tim Walz is like a deer hunter and he wears camo, and Kamala Harris, she wears Converse and eats Doritos. It's just like a cool ticket, man. People who believe that nonsense and that crap, I honestly think they'd vote for a ham sandwich if it was on the Democrat ticket. Okay, so we're never going to get those people. However, we could maybe get the people who are suffering from TDS. So if they wake up and they realize, hey, I don't have to listen to the mainstream media. I don't have to turn on CNBC or NBC or CBS or one of the three-letter alphabet media outlets. I don't have to do that. I can choose to listen to alternative media and do my own research. So it turns out there's a cure for TDS, independence. And I think we need to spend the next 60-ish days or so until the election fighting for those guys, for those votes. The people who are suffering from TDS. I think that we could change their minds about Donald Trump. I really do. You're not going to change the minds of people who really don't care about policy and they just are like, oh yeah, Kamala Harris's Chucks are so cool. Her Converse, did you see that she ate a bag of Doritos? How amazing is that? You're not going to change those people. However, maybe you could change the people who, oh, I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like, his rhetoric. You might be able to change their minds if you just offer them a little bit of independence and get them to stop listening to the mainstream. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, Dana Bash, yes, she did a sit down with, Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. They had this really boring joint interview with Dana Bash, whose husband, Jeremy Bash, was, of course, on that list. If you guys remember her ex-husband, Jeremy Bash, he was one of the 51 intelligence officials who signed that letter claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. We do know that it was not Russian disinformation, but it was in fact factual. Everything that came from that Hunter Biden laptop is true and evidence, and it's just a fact that it exists. Her husband, Dana Bash, signed a letter with intelligence officers swearing that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. So that's all you really need to know about Dana Bash, and how hard hitting this interview really was. It was just the pinnacle of journalism. Not so. We're gonna get to that, and I'm gonna debunk it right here live on Conservative Cat. Find me on YouTube. Type it in your search bar, Conservative Cat Show. We'll be right back. Good morning. It's Labor Day weekend. Well, it's Labor Day. It's Labor Day. Maybe you're traveling. I think it's like 21% of Americans will travel this weekend. We did a little bit of traveling. We went to a friend's lake house and I got to jet ski. I've never jet skied before, and it was a blast. It was so much fun, and it makes me want to jet ski now. So I used to ride some motorcycles, and it seems kind of like that, where it's a motorcycle, but it's just watercraft. So it was a whole lot of fun. Text me, let me know what your Labor Day weekend plans are. 309-451-9299. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Dana Bash. Yes, Dana Bash's ex-husband, Jeremy Bash, he signed on with 51 other intelligence officials claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop story was false and that it was Russian disinformation. That's not true. We now know that the Hunter Biden laptop, and it's not me saying that it's evidence or that it's factual. Mark Zuckerberg came out and he said that he regrets that he allowed the Biden administration to bully him into censoring people who shared information off of the Hunter Biden laptop stories or information off of the laptop. So Dana Bash, she gave a few tough questions in the beginning, okay, but she never followed up on them. That's the thing, is she asked some tough questions, but she never followed up on them and continued to press Kamala Harris. That's how you know this was a softball interview. Everybody's like, oh, it wasn't a softball interview. It was a softball interview. And they couldn't claim that it wasn't a softball interview without having a few of these tougher questions to point to. Okay. So they crafted this. They designed this interview to be effectively a profile piece on her. She didn't really get pressed on any of the issues. The biggest thing out of this interview that I could not stand was when she sat there and she continued to lie about Joe Biden's health. Okay, so Dana Bash, she asked, hey, is Joe Biden in good health? Clearly after that first debate with Donald Trump, the American people began to question his cognitive ability. Do you still stand by, pretty much lying about his cognitive abilities? And she goes, yes, he's all there. He's sharp as a tack. I mean, that was essentially Kamala Harris's answer to that. This is an amazing clip. Take a listen to this. This is how, when people say, oh, the Dana Bash interview, it was hard-hitting journalism, it wasn't a softball interview. Show them this clip. She quite literally gives her all of the answers for like different answers to select from. It was almost like a game show. What's that game show where they pop up the answers and you have to give the answer and there's multiple choice? I forget what it's called, but it was like she was feeding her the answers the entire time to the point where she didn't really need Tim Walz to, give her a lifeline. She didn't need to call on Tim Walz to help her out. Dana Bash was feeding her the answers the entire time. Take a listen.
How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time.
That's it? That's it. Okay. Madam Vice President, Governor Walz.
That answer was perfect.
Appreciate
it. That answer was perfect. Oh boy. So yeah, it was almost like it was some sort of game show. You guys heard it right there. It was the question was, how should voters look at some of the changes you've made? Obviously, you flip-flopped on some policy, and now you're saying you're not going to ban fracking. Now you're saying that you're a moderate. Clearly, voters are kind of confused. What is it? Is it that you have more experience now? Dana Bash was feeding her the answers. Is it that you have more experience now? Have you learned more? Were you or you were in the Democrat primary? You were in a Democrat primary, and this is why you said you were going to ban fracking. Was it just because you were trying to pander to, leftist voters, and that's why you said that you were for banning fracking at the time? And she said it was because of deadlines around time. It was a bunch of word salad. She didn't use a lifeline from Tim Walz. She still had word salad, even though Dana Bash actually gave her the answers. You could hear it in that interview. So firstly, Kamala, in her interview, what really peeved me off was that she said she was going to strengthen the middle class. She has no idea who the middle class is. She isn't middle class. She grew up in one of the wealthiest suburbs in Canada, Montreal suburb, and she has no idea what it's like to struggle at all. Her mother, who was her primary caretaker because her dad and mom got divorced. Her mother was a cancer researcher. Okay. And then her father, who I'm sure contributed financially to the household in some sort of way and didn't totally abandon the kids. He was an esteemed professor. Okay. So this woman has no idea what middle class is like. But she said that she intends to strengthen the middle class on day one without elaborating how she's going to strengthen the middle class. She's responsible for destroying it, of course, with the Biden-Harris administration. And in the same breath, she claimed she wanted change. She wanted hope. It's unclear how she can change people's hope when she's the status quo and she's currently in there to more hopelessness than any other VP in American history. She's probably going to make it more hopeless, being that she is the status quo. And if she wanted to change, if she wanted to provide the American people more hope, she could do it because she's 10 steps away from the Oval Office. She has contributed to more hopelessness than any other vice president in American history. And that's just a fact. So if she really wanted more hope, she could do it. So Bash, she pretended to press her on, in this interview. And Kamala, of course, the way she says that she's going to strengthen the middle class kind of was this child tax credit. Now, I've gone through this before. The media mocked J.D. Vance for, this idea. He was the first one to implement this kind of idea or talk about a child tax credit. And she was praised in the media for it. Okay, the headlines couldn't be any more different. Oh, J.D. Vance says there's going to be a child. How is he going to pay for this? How is he going to pay for this? Right. So Kamala, she proposed a $6,000 child tax credit and is trying to compare that with the $5,000 credit proposed by J.D. Vance. So she goes $1,000 more. And this is in addition, of course, to her stealing Donald Trump's proposal for no taxes on tips. But the child tax credit here, they couldn't be more different because on J.D. Vance's proposal, he's got income requirements. Hey, you actually have to be paying taxes in order to receive a tax credit. Kamala Harris, she's just giving you Jerry Springer checks, $6,000. She's really the one that should be criticized for her proposal, not J.D. Vance. And she's encouraging unproductivity with this child tax credit with no income requirement. So the two couldn't be any more different. But of course, Dana Bash didn't press her, hey, why don't you have income requirements on this child tax credit? Do you think that that's going to encourage unproductivity? That would have been a hard pressing issue or a hard pressing question, but Dana Bash, of course, didn't ask it. All right, I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every single day. Yes, Dana Bash, she pretended to press her on her non-answer. And, she was asking, okay, what kind of policy, at first her question was, what is your administration going to do day one if you become president, Kamala Harris? Okay. And then she says, well, day one, we're going to strengthen the middle class. Okay. She didn't go into detail about strengthening the middle class. She claimed that people want change, want hope. And, it's unclear how she can change people's hope when she's the status quo and she's contributed to more hopelessness than any other VP in American history. She's the border czar. She's destroyed the middle class via the border. She's destroyed the middle class via her two tie-breaking votes, the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay, so she has contributed to more hopelessness than probably any VP ever. The fact that she had these two tie-breaking votes, and the fact that she was appointed to the border and in charge of the border, she's probably the worst vice president because vice presidents don't do much. She, with what little power she had in that position, she used it, and she did not use it to create hope. So Dana Bash, of course, she didn't have an answer. Kamala Harris, when she talked about strengthening the middle class, what Dana Bash did was pretended to press her on it, and she was all like, okay, well, the policy, how are you going to strengthen? Okay, so she pretends to press Kamala Harris. Then Kamala Harris comes back and she's like, well, the child tax credit. She steals JD Vance's child tax credit proposal. So the same child tax credit that we know the media just completely obliterated. JD Vance said, oh, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for this? The same thing is happening with Donald Trump, who said that he's going to make sure insurance covers things like fertility treatments, IVF. And I'm all for fertility treatments. I do understand, and Republicans are for this. And, for some odd reason, Democrats have said that we think that IVF is the boogeyman and that we don't like fertility treatments for some odd reason. There are a few things about fertility treatments that Republicans don't like. And number one is that you use them as a last resort. You've told women that they should wait, go chase the career, blah, blah, blah. And then IVF will be waiting for you. And IVF is hard, right? If you talk to women who go through fertility treatments, they don't like going through it. Okay. It's very hard. It's very tough on a couple. It's tough on people who are trying to conceive. And, I take issue with Democrats who lie to women and then use IVF as, a money. It really is just a Ponzi scheme. They'll tell you, hey, do this and this and this as a woman, feminazism. Feminazis will say, go chase this, go do this, be a feminist. Just have abortions all the way up until you're like 30 or 40, and then have dangerous or potentially taxing fertility treatments, right? I take issue with that because really what you're trying to do, and, have birth control, go get that. And really what you're doing is you're making that woman into a cash cow, and you're using and abusing her and trying to get her to pay for contraceptives and birth control and also abortion all the way up until it's too late. And then you're even going to squeeze her for her money at this point with IVF. That's one thing that Republicans take issue with the IVF. The other thing is that IVF, obviously frozen embryos, they use, I think, frozen embryos, and it doesn't potentially work all the time. And what you have to do is discard those embryos if it doesn't work to the liking of the couple. What do I mean? So they can create embryos and then toss those embryos, and then thereby killing more children, or they'll toss the embryos or use them for science or vaccines. And they'll test these embryos that don't work for the fertility treatment, and they'll use them for science. And we, as Republicans, believe that life begins at, as most conservatives or pro-lifers believe, life begins at conception. And once you create that embryo, that's a child. And the way that they are using these embryos in the scientific process of impregnating a woman could be seen as immoral, where you're discarding a ton of embryos in the name of science or using them for science. But we're not against fertility treatments, and Donald Trump said that he was going to get insurance companies to pay for IVF, and they're like, oh, you don't have money for that. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. Yes, Donald Trump could cure cancer, and they'd still criticize him. So J.D. Vance's tax credit, child tax credit, it was $5,000. Then Kamala Harris comes out and copies him, of course, like not much unlike the no tax on tips. Okay. We know that she came out and copied Donald Trump's policy when it came to no tax on tips. He was the one that coined that. And then Kamala Harris steps in and says, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. J.D. Vance says $5,000 tax credit. And this was a proposal by him. She comes out and she goes, how about a $6,000 child tax credit? But the two proposals couldn't be any different. J.D. Vance, he says, hey, you need to make some income in order to receive this child tax credit. But Kamala Harris, on the other side, she has no income requirement, and that really is encouraging unproductivity. You know, the welfare babies, right? The baby mamas. This is a thing where, baby mamas, they'll have babies just for the tax credits, right? There was something that Obama did that incentivized unproductivity and incentivized people having children who didn't contribute to the economy at all. Okay. They weren't paying taxes, but yet you gave them a tax credit. At that point, that's just checks. You're just giving people $6,000 checks. Not unlike her first-time home buyers proposal. This is a down payment. She's going to write $25,000 to cover down payments of first-time home buyers. And I mean, that's going to increase demand at a time where supply is low because people aren't building houses right now because the construction costs are too high and the supply is low. You're going to increase demand, therefore increasing inflation. Okay. She's arguably designing policy to increase inflation. I don't know why she's doing that, but I mean, it's just so clear. You're encouraging unproductivity, baby mamas. You're also going to increase demand when there's very little supply. You're screwing over the American people with your policies. And Dana Bash didn't, press her on this. And I know that the press mocked J.D. Vance over his child tax credit, and they're mocking Donald Trump right now because he said that, hey, insurance companies should be paying for fertility treatments like IVF. And the left, they scream at the sky and they mock J.D. Vance for his child tax credit, although they'll praise Kamala Harris for her child tax credit. And then they'll mock Donald Trump because he wants to give out fertility treatments or get the insurance companies to pay for those types of things. And yet they try to disparage him and say that he's against women and their bodies and their reproductive rights or their reproductive care. And that couldn't be further from the truth. He's out there saying, yes, insurance companies should be paying for IVF. IVF is tricky. I don't know why the Republicans or why Democrats have said that Republicans are against fertility treatments. Republicans are not against fertility treatments. There's a lot of conservative pro-lifers who say, yes, I am against IVF in some instances where they'll use the frozen embryos, right? Or they'll, use a woman to create all these little petri dishes and then take these petri dishes, these embryos, toss them, which we believe their life, right? And toss them or use them for pseudoscience or vaccination creation. And we take issue with that. If you're doing IVF, you can't use and abuse women's bodies and pretty much use it for science, and pseudoscience at that. So there was all kinds of controversial cases where people were discarding embryos and somebody would go in for IVF treatments and they'd create, 6 embryos and then they'd toss out 5 of them. That's 5 babies you just killed. So Republicans take issue with that. And then they also take issue with the fact that you tell a woman that she can get an abortion all in her early 20s up to the point until she's 30 or 40, and then you're going to suggest that she goes through a very taxing procedure, IVF, fertility treatments. Talk to anybody who's actually gone through fertility treatments. It's very taxing on the couple. It's very stressful. You've told this woman all up to this point that, yes, go get your birth control. Yes, get your abortion out of a mobile van. We're totally for that. And she's got to pay for her abortion. She's got to pay, the insurance company pays for her abortion, and the taxpayer pays for her abortion in the state of Illinois. But she's got to pay for birth control and abortions up to this point, and then she's got to pay for IVF. So you've pretty much turned her into a cash cow for this health care that they call women's health care. She's contributing her money to this system, and all the while her life and her health care is completely ignored. And Republicans take issue with that. That sentiment of, oh, just wait, have an abortion, go get on birth control, and then you're going to wait until she's older and it's going to be harder to conceive a child. And then you're going to toss out all these babies, these embryos via IVF because they don't work for her to conceive them because she's older and biologically it's tougher. So yes, the media will mock J.D. Vance for his child tax credit and say, how are you going to pay for that? That's very expensive, J.D. Vance. But they won't mock Kamala Harris, although she quite literally copied his child tax credit. And her proposal is actually going to not be beneficial because she has no income requirements. So at that, effectively, she's handing out cash. And then they're going to mock Donald Trump because he says, oh, insurance companies should pay for fertility treatments. Although in the same breath, they say that he's anti-women's rights, anti-reproductive health care. It's just couldn't be further from the truth. These people have no shame. They praise Kamala Harris. They mock J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. I do want to get to Kamala Harris. She's vowing that that America is not going back. What do you mean not going back? Back to a time where life was affordable, where the cost of living was lower, when groceries were cheaper? She claims to have rescued America from mismanagement from the former administration, from Donald Trump's administration. But your empty wallet, I'm sorry, it says otherwise. You didn't save America from mismanagement. You are the mismanagement. And what's even more disingenuous, this is even more disingenuous because it's the Dems who demanded that the economy stay closed forever. They were the ones who demanded that the economy, right before Donald Trump left office, he was encouraging states to reopen after COVID-19. And they were the ones who wanted the economy to stay closed forever. Look at Minnesota. Look at Governor Tim Walz. What he did in his state, he opened up a hotline for people to snitch on their neighbors if they were violating COVID protocols or COVID mandates, if they were opening up their businesses. And inflation is at 20% higher than it was in 2021. So it's unclear what she means by, fixing anything. She says that she fixed America with Biden. What do you mean? Especially because your tie-breaking votes, American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act, your tie-breaking votes contributed to the massive price increases we're seeing today. Secondly, she says that she's taking credit for jobs. So first, she says she's going to strengthen the middle class, which is total nonsense and garbage. I debunked that. The child tax credit thing, the $25,000 down payment for first-time home buyers that's going to destroy and decimate the economy. Secondly, she's taking credit for creating jobs. We've gone through that several times. They created manufacturing jobs. No, they didn't. They didn't create any kind of jobs. They counted the bounce-back jobs from COVID-19. And they created more government jobs, and they gave out jobs to foreign-born workers, illegal aliens. So most importantly, Kamala Harris, she vowed that she intends to not ban fracking. She doesn't want to ban fracking anymore, although she claimed in 2019 that she was all for banning fracking. We're going to get to that. We've got so much to get to today. I do want to get to the Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson. She is keeping Kennedy on the ballot in Michigan. That could be devastating for Trump, as that is a swing state, and he could take votes away from Donald Trump in that state. He wants to get out of that off that ballot because he has endorsed Donald Trump, but the Secretary of State is giving him hell. So I'll be right back. This is Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Yes, we are going to get to the Michigan Secretary of State. Her name is Jocelyn Benson. She is not allowing RFK Jr. to bow out of this presidential race in that state. It's all fun and games until Kennedy endorses a Republican. Oh, no. So they're pretending that the reason why they can't let RFK Jr. fall off that ballot or withdraw his name on the ballot, on the Michigan ballot, is because, quote, minor party candidates can't withdraw, so his name will remain on the ballot. And then, I think that the real reason is obviously the Democrat Party, of which, this Michigan State Secretary of State is a part of. She thinks that RFK Jr. votes will take away votes from Donald Trump, thereby giving the state, this very vital swing state, to Kamala Harris. So why do I make that assumption? Well, you've got Jocelyn Benson simultaneously. Colonel West, he's on the ballot. He would take votes away from Kamala Harris. He's like some sort of deranged leftist, and likely the people who are pro-Hamas would vote for him over Kamala because Kamala's been kind of soft on that for the leftists. She has been aligning herself with Joe Biden up to this point, who has expressed at least verbal support of Israel. So I think that the real reason is obviously because she wants to help out Kamala Harris, this Michigan Secretary of State. She is a member of the Democrat Party. This is very it's very undemocratic, okay, to be playing these types of reindeer games. But she tried to get Colonel West kicked off the ballot. Now, he's most likely going to pull voters away from Democrats. But of course, we want him off the ballot. So she tried to kick him off the ballot so that way he couldn't pull votes away from Kamala Harris. Good news is that through a legal challenge, Colonel West was able to keep his name on the ballot. So that is kind of good news. Although this person is a deranged leftist and we don't want him in either. But Michigan is a swing state by definition. In 2016, Trump won it. As of recent elections, it's been getting bluer and bluer. It's much like the landscape in Michigan is a lot like Illinois. Unions, Michigan Democrats have wasted no time making this a blue state. Okay. And they've been trying to get Michigan to be blue. They revoked the right to work, which was effective January 1st, 2024. So therefore, you've got these auto unions, truck driver unions, teachers unions, hell, even grocery stores are unionized at this point. So if you're a Michigander working at a union job, you better believe you're donating to the Harris presidency, because that's how unions work. For some odd reason, whether you want to or not, you have to donate, or you are donating, because through your dues, they donate to Democrats. And make no mistake, Illinois is perfect at doing this. I mean, you've had Illinois Senate President Don Harmon, who quite literally came out and said, quote, Democrats don't win without unions. Unions contribute largely to Democrats. So I'll be right back. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, Kamala Harris, she says, oh, we're not going back. What do you mean we're not going back? Back to a time where groceries were cheap and affordable and the cost of living was low? You mean we're not going back to that? Inflation is 20% higher since 2021. She is, of course, the one who did these tie-breaking votes. She contributed to mass price increases. They lie on every single jobs report. This administration has had to do some serious edits on jobs reports because they lie about the creation of jobs. Most importantly, she vowed that she intends to ban fracking. She did that in 2019. And she claims that she's changed her opinion in 2020, since 2020, and the masses should believe that she won't change her mind again and change her opinion again when it comes to fracking. So she says that her values haven't changed. her values haven't changed. So I've got a couple of clips I want to play from the Dana Bash interview. Now, remember, Dana Bash, she interviewed Harris Walls, and it turns out Dana Bash's husband, ex-husband, he was one of the 51 Intel officials who signed that letter claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. So that's all you really need to know about Dana Bash. They lie. They cheat. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. When we come back, we're going to discuss Michigan as well. I want to get to this story with the Michigan Secretary of State. And then also, there's this really great clip of a salon owner. She's a small business owner. She asks her employees to guess how much she pays in taxes just to keep them employed, just to make payroll, because she pays taxes on the payroll. And this is quite hilarious, this clip. So I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat.
It's the Labor Day weekend kicking off later today. There's expected to be a heavy police presence on the roadways by Illinois State Police and local agencies as part of their program Drive Silver or Get Pulled Over campaign. Sean Fagan, the Bloomington resident and a longtime United Steelworkers representative, has announced he's tossing his hat into the ring for McLean County Board's 9th District. The Southfield resident since 1988 and mentioned an insurance advocate for Bridgestone for 25 years. Fagan aims to address the cost of living and boost the local economy. The Children's Discovery Museum in Normal is going to be closed to the public from September 1st to September 8th. This is for its annual adults-only fundraiser, Play Love, and that is coming up on September 7th. It's until 10 p.m. Now, this event will transform the museum with specialty equipment and designs that are catered for the big kids, the adults. This year's Play Love, celebrating the museum's 30th anniversary, will feature 1990s pop culture themes. The fundraiser aims to support future exhibits and outreach programs. Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. News on the air, on the web, on your app, and on Alexa. I'm Tom Davis. Here's the Bloomington Normal forecast on Cities 92.9. Mostly sunny for this Labor Day. Should be beautiful for the parade at 10 this morning with a high near 75. Blue skies tonight, low 50. Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high of 76. And Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 81. This weather report is with the
Woo! Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. You can always find me on YouTube. Type it in your search bar, Conservative Cat Show, or find me on Rumble by typing in Cities 92.9. Before we took the break, I was telling you about Kamala Harris. Probably the most important part of this interview was when she denied, she didn't really deny it, but she claims now that she changed her mind. She changed her 2020 opinion where she told the masses that she was going to ban fracking and that she is all for banning fracking. So she changes her mind. She claims that her values haven't changed. So I don't know. Should the masses believe that she won't flip-flop again? She wants us to believe that she won't ban fracking now, but she said it back in 2019, that she would ban fracking. So let's take a listen to this clip from the Dana Bash interview. I'm kind of debunking it here on your Labor Day, just so that way you know that this was not a hard-hitting interview. She didn't really press Kamala when it mattered. Now, there were a few tough questions she asked Kamala, and I'm going to get to this here in a second, about Joe Biden's health, his cognitive abilities, and if she was lying to people saying that he was fit as a fiddle. And Kamala Harris essentially said, no, I stand by my statements. Joe Biden is sharp as a tack. She continues to lie to the American people. But take a listen to this clip regarding the fracking. Here we go.
Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, there is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania. Sure. Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020 that I would not ban fracking. As
she didn't, by the way. She, on the 2020 debate stage, the vice presidential debate, she was talking about how Joe Biden would not ban fracking. Let's continue.
Vice President, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
As vice president, I did not ban fracking. Well, you really don't have the power to do that because you'd have to do it via executive order or a tie-breaking vote. Now, she, as I said, is probably the worst vice president ever. She has been given way more power than I would say most vice presidents have had, being that there were two very, very crucial votes where she broke the tie on the American Rescue Plan Act and then the Inflation Reduction Act. And that, of course, those two votes contributed to massive price increases. So she is quite literally probably the worst VP ever. And then not to mention, she was also tasked with the border. So she's been given a lot of power as a vice president. Now, this whole I didn't ban fracking as VP. Well, no, of course you didn't ban fracking as VP. Something like that would have had to come from the president. And, you know, on the 2020 debate stage that you're referring to, you said Joe Biden wouldn't ban fracking for that presidency, for the 2020 ticket, that ticket wouldn't ban fracking. But who's to say? I mean, do you have any values? Kamala, like, this is the problem with not having any values. Leftists, they don't have values. And that's what really bothers me about the lukewarm people, libertarian types. Pick a side. Pick a side. Have some values. Stand with your values and stand behind your opinions. This whole flip-flopping thing really is starting to peeve me off. Let's take a listen to some more.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
I kept my word, and I will keep my word. Okay. I don't know if the masses should believe her that she won't change her opinion again, because especially considering the way she talked about banning fracking. Okay, it wasn't just like, I want to ban fracking. She really seemed to be passionate about this issue particularly. Let's take a listen to her back in 2019 during the CNN town hall. Here we go.
And starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, that we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah, so thank you.
So
the health and safety of communities. So yeah, thank you.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, and I've, again, worked on that.
So she discusses how she wants to ban fracking. She went into a long diatribe in another clip somewhere about, how, her sister or something where, fracking and the Green New Deal. And, she spoke passionately about this, right? So this is the problem with the left. You don't know if they have values. Okay, Donald Trump has remained consistent. Now you have people, Republicans, conservatives, they're like, he's not pro-life enough. He's not a pro-life president. He's been very consistent from day one. He has never been further than moderate on abortion. Okay, so he's always talked about the three exceptions, which is not very extreme at all. That's moderate, I would say, on abortion. He's always consistent, and he always holds his values pretty consistently. He never really flip-flops on anything. Now, Kamala Harris, you have no idea what she believes in because she's a chameleon. She just kind of flip-flops whenever it's politically advantageous for her to do so. So lastly in this interview, and then I'm going to move on to RFK Jr. and Michigan Secretary of State trying to force him to stay on the ballot in Michigan. Lastly, what she talked about was blaming Donald Trump for the border. Yes, and I've given you those numbers several times. Under Donald Trump, the illegal crossings, we were at 3 million during his administration. Now we're at 10 million that we know of under the Biden administration, Biden-Harris. And she is the border czar. She was appointed as the border czar. I know that. You know that. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking that she was never appointed to be the border czar. Additionally, she also is responsible for the biggest cover-up of the century. Okay, she pretended that Joe Biden wasn't senile for years. And continued to perpetuate that dishonesty with Dana Bash in this interview when she was asked about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities and if she stands by her previous statements of, oh, Joe Biden's sharp as a tack, right? She says, yes, I stand by that. So she's continuing this act of dishonesty against the American people. And this is probably an act of dishonesty perpetuated against the American people more than I have ever seen. They continue to tell you he's not senile and he's running the country. We know that that's not true. After watching that debate, now finally it was released to the masses, right? With this CNN debate that Joe Biden and Donald Trump had, clearly he's not cognitively there. But I knew that prior because I use alternative news sources. I don't listen to CNN when they tell me that he's cognitively up to speed, sharp as a tack. No, he's not senile. No, he didn't fall down the stairs of Air Force One. That was just a clip taken out of context. I don't listen to all that nonsense because I listen to alternative media. I don't listen to the mainstream. But this is such an act of dishonesty, and she continues to perpetuate this lie that he isn't senile. And I think that is a disservice to the American people. And they lie, they cheat. And Dana Bash, like I said, her husband was one of the 51 intelligence officials who signed that letter claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. And we know that that's not true because guess who came out? One of their own, Mark Zuckerberg, apologized for censoring information that came out on the Hunter Biden laptop story. So RFK Jr., he's out of the presidential race, but not if the Michigan Secretary of State has anything to say about it. Jocelyn Benson, this woman is a psychopath. She's screwing over Kennedy voters. She's screwing over Trump voters. And she is not allowing Kennedy to remove his name from the ballot in the state of Michigan. This is a vital swing state. Obviously, RFK Jr., he endorsed President Donald Trump. He doesn't want to hurt Trump's chances in Michigan, and he has every right to pull his name off of that ballot, or at least he should. It's all fun and games until a Kennedy endorses a Republican. Why? Well, let's pretend for the reasons that they claim that they're doing this. Why are they doing this? Why are they forcing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to stay on that ballot in Michigan? Well, they say it's because, quote, minor party candidates can't withdraw, so his name is going to remain on the ballot. This is according to a senior press secretary for Benson, the Michigan Secretary of State. Now, the real reason, I think, is the Democrat Party, which Benson is a part of, this Michigan Secretary of State. She's a Democrat. She's a member of the Democrat Party. And she wants RFK Jr. to stay on the ballot so that way he can pull votes away from Donald Trump in a vital swing state. Why am I making that assumption, Kat? That's kind of a big assumption. So you're just assuming that she's, shilling for the Democrat Party. She's compromising democratic values, really democracy, and she's doing this kind of thing where she's using her position of authority to help a candidate of her choice. Yes, she's using her official elected capacity to help Kamala Harris. Why do I make this assumption? Well, it's because Jocelyn Benson here, the Michigan Secretary of State, she tried to remove anyway, the same Secretary of State tried to remove Colonel West from the ballot in Michigan. Okay, a minority party or a minor party, not a major party. This guy, he's like a leftist. I'd imagine he's going to take the pro-Hamas vote away from Kamala Harris in that state because Kamala Harris has aligned herself with Joe Biden, who is verbally not really any substantial backing or supporting of Israel. He hasn't really substantially helped them. In fact, he's probably hurt them by giving all kinds of money to Iran, thereby giving the money to Hamas. Anyway, I digress. Most likely, Colonel West is going to pull votes away from Democrats. So, of course, they want him off the ballot. The Democrats are trying to remove this guy from the ballot, Colonel West, because they don't want him on the ballot because he's going to pull votes away from Kamala. Good news. The good news is that Colonel West is going to stay on the ballot because of a legal challenge, and he managed to keep himself on the ballot. So, while Michigan is a swing state by definition, it went to Donald Trump, of course, in 2016. Over recent elections, it's gotten bluer and bluer and bluer. I don't think that Donald Trump probably was going to get Michigan. I really hope that he does. Obviously, that it's a vital state. I think he's going to get Pennsylvania 100%. That whole Josh Shapiro because he's Jewish thing, I really do think that Kamala Harris purposefully chose Tim Walz over Josh Shapiro and Governor J.B. Pritzker because they're Jewish. Governor J.B. Pritzker, as a VP pick, he could have easily funded his own campaign, funded her campaign tenfold. I think he's the richest politician. He's up there with Donald Trump. He's one of the richest politician in America. He would have been a great asset to have for this campaign for the Democrat side. Josh Shapiro would have won her this state of Pennsylvania because the Pennsylvanians like him for some reason, although he's not as bad as JB, I will say that. But as of recent elections, Michigan has gotten bluer and bluer. They revoked right to work. That was effective January 1st of 2024. This year, Michigan Democrats have wasted no time fortifying Michigan as a blue state. They are working hard. They're taking a page out of our playbook here in Illinois, where they get the unions out for the Democrats. Auto worker unions, truck driver unions, teachers union, hell, even grocery stores have unionized. And if you're a Michigander who's working in a union job, much like if you're an Illinoisan who works in a union job, you better believe that you're donating to Harris's presidency. I hate to tell you, whether you know that or not, in the state of Illinois, if you are a part of a union, mainly public union, but even private unions, right? You gotta do your research because your dues are probably going towards Democrat candidates. 100%. I not 100%, but 9 out of 10 most likely is going to Democrat candidates here in the state of Illinois, and they're taking a page out of our playbook. Michigan is, so they're going to wind up much like Illinois in, I don't know, I'd say 5 to 10 years. They're going to be a deep blue state, much like Illinois is. But what you don't see going on is what the mainstream media won't tell you is going on. The auto workers, the people who are actually members of unions, they don't like Democrats' policies. They don't like it because it hurts them. He spoke up for his industry. This guy, he's an auto worker. And this is really a great piece. He was at a Trump rally, and he talks about how they can't allow these Democrats to keep getting in because they're going to destroy the industry with their government mandates. So let's take a listen to this fella. The mainstream won't tell you about this type of guy. Here we go.
Chrysler and General Motors have already gone bankrupt once. But if we allow electric vehicle mandates to be put on this industry by the federal government, they're going out of business again. We got to fight against that. And this guy standing right here is the only person who will do it. We cannot allow the federal government to put mandates on the auto industry to build electric vehicles when the consumers do not want them. I'm asking auto workers and I'm asking everybody that supplies the auto industry, get 10 or 15 of your friends, make sure they get out and vote. Our very survival depends on it, and we can't allow it to happen. So vote Trump and J.D. Vance, and we'll turn this country around. He's done it once. Unfortunately, he's going to have to go back and do it again.
All right. So that's something you won't hear. Michigan guy is just spitting out facts. That's a Michigander. He's an auto worker and he spoke out for his industry. I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to finish this up because the Michigan Secretary of State, she promises she's going to come for you. Yes, these local certifiers of the election, if they cry foul or if they say, hey, something smells off with this election, she's going to come for you. She threatened the local certifiers there, the local election authorities who, might not certify an election because something seems fishy. She said that she's going to come for you. This is a bizarre clip. That's next on Conservative Gap. Good morning. Hey, so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell if you're watching on Rumble. We are going to get to this woman right here in in the screen. On your screen, you can see her. She's completely wacko. This is the Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson. And as I said, it's very clear that the reason why she wants RFK Jr. to stay on the ballot is because her intention is to steal vote or to get votes to go towards RFK and to steal votes from Donald Trump. He wants to get off the ballot here, obviously, in the swing state. It's a vital swing state. Jocelyn Benson is not allowing that to happen. It's all fun and games until a Kennedy endorses a Republican, and then you've got to really buckle down and start doing very undemocratic things. Now, in this clip, she is saying, hey, if you're a concerned Michigander who thinks that there's shenanigans going on in the state of Michigan when it comes to the election, if you see something like somebody stuffing ballots or a water break or somebody putting up cardboard in the windows to prevent you from watching what's going on at that polling location. If you see something, you better shut your mouth. Shut your mouth, because I'm going to make it illegal for you to cast doubts on election results. Yes. And anybody who tells you that it's wrong to cast doubt on election results or to question the results of elections, be very wary of those people. It is not wrong to question the results of an election. That's what you're supposed. There's process for you to do that. There's nothing wrong with questioning an election and the results of the election. This is how you prevent dictatorships from running amok. We saw it in Venezuela. They are currently, I think it's still going on, protests. Milei, I think that's his name, the Venezuelan dictator who recently won that election. He claimed victory, but all the exit polling shows that he did not win, and that not Milei, Maduro. Milei is the guy who I like. Milei, I think, is the one who goes afuera, and he's like and he's the Argentina leader. But the Venezuelan dictator Maduro, he came out and said, oh, I won the election, but all the exit polling suggests that his opponent won. So she's going to make it to where she comes after you if you question the election results. Yes, that's terrifying. Now, Michigan is doing everything in its power right now to make it to where the election results are questionable. They're doing things like permanent absentee voting. They've instituted, permanent absentee voting where you can request that you get a permanent mail-in ballot every single year. They've expanded early voting. They're adding more drop boxes. They're requiring an ID to vote, but it's literally an ID, a student ID, and you don't have to have it. There is a way for you to vote without an ID in Michigan. So really, it's like a nothing burger requirement, an ID to vote. So Michigan, I feel bad for you. Blink twice if you need help. Are you all right in Michigan? Gretchen Whitmer is a disaster. I hope that the Michigan people don't forget what she did during COVID-19. I hope that these people start to realize that these Democrats are not doing anything to help them. Like that auto worker was saying, the federal government is just placing more and more mandates on us to build these EV cars, but the consumers don't want them. They're effectively going to decimate our industry with these mandates. So we're going to get to also a salon owner. She talks about how much she has to pay in taxes. So I didn't know this because I'm not a small business owner. I don't make a payroll or anything like that. But apparently she pays taxes on the payroll. So she pays taxes on the payroll, and her employees, they really are shocked by this number of how much she had to pay just to keep them on payroll in taxes. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. So do appreciate you tuning in. It's a daily show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now, heads up, everyone. I am going to be on vacation for a couple of weeks. starting on, so I'll be here tomorrow, but then on Wednesday, we're going to be plugging in Hugh Hewitt for you radio listeners. And you're going to be like, what? Where's Kat? Where'd she go? She's gone. No, I'm not gone. We're just plugging in Hugh Hewitt while I'm on vacation. And Hugh Hewitt is a great show, morning show. I highly suggest you listen. He's very, very educated, has a lot of experience. So tune in to Hugh Hewitt while I'm gone, but I will be back September 16th, rested, ready to go, because we are your election headquarters. We've got so much to cover leading up to Election Day, and we're about 60 days or so out. So there's a lot to cover, including what's going on in Michigan. So this is obviously a vital swing state. I just played for you the auto worker who spoke for his industry. He's upset that the federal government is, of course, mandating these EVs, that the industry create these EVs, but there's no demand for them. Nobody really wants them. So thereby, their industry is being decimated. And, this Michigan guy, Homie, he's really spitting out some truth here, saying, hey, vote for Donald Trump. He actually cares about our industry, and he's not going to force us to make EVs that nobody wants. So if you're a concerned citizen of Michigan who begins to question the results of the election, okay, then this Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, she's going to come for you. Quite literally, she said this: you better keep your Great Lakes swimming, your apple picking mouth shut, you Michigander, because it's illegal for you to cast doubt on election results nowadays. Take a listen to this woman. This is really, really creepy. Here we go.
If someone were to violate the law and not certify the election at the local level, we will come for you. So any local certifier thinking of skirting the law and not certifying the vote, don't even think about it, because we'll get. If someone were to violate the law and not certify the election at the local level, we will come for you.
Oh my goodness, they will come for you. So
any local certifier thinking of skirting the law and not certifying the vote, don't even think about it.
There is a process, okay? You are allowed to cast doubts. Be very careful of people who say, oh, you're not allowed to cast doubt on the elections. You're not allowed to question what's going on with your election. Be very, very careful of those people. And I was discussing with our YouTubers and our streaming audience that Maduro over in Venezuela, he claimed victory with only like a few percentage, like a percent of the vote being casted. Exit polling suggests that his opponent won. And this guy is a dictator, and he's doing everything in his power to stay in power. And he's totalitarian, and it's authoritarianism when they say, oh, we will come for you, local certifiers who cry foul. Your local certifiers, your local election authorities, if they find something fishy, if there's something going on, like a water main break at a polling location, or people covering up the windows of a polling location to prevent people from seeing in, or in the case of Georgia, where you've got people feeding ballots through a tabulator multiple times, the same ballots multiple times. Ruby Freeman, I'm looking at you. If you've got people like that, it's okay for you to cast doubts on the election results. That's the democratic process. And of course, people are casting doubts on the Michigan election in the way they conduct them. And why wouldn't you if you're an Illinoisan? Of course, you're going to cast doubt on the election results, because here's what they're doing in Michigan. And then I'll tell you what we're doing here in the state of Illinois. Don't worry that they're pre-registering 16 and 17 years olds. Quite literally, they're registering, they're getting them on the voter roll, 16 and 17-year-olds, before they're ready to vote. And they're going to use their names on that voter registration to do nefarious things, okay? It's all about getting as many people on those voter rolls as possible. If you have people on the voter rolls, then you can do nefarious things with those names, okay? So 16 and 17-year-olds are registered to vote in the state of Michigan. They're pre-registered to vote, so they're on some sort of voter roll, okay? Don't worry that in the state of Michigan, you can request a permanent absentee vote by mail ballot. They send you a little postcard. You can request that you get a permanent vote by mail ballot. And I always say this: if you trust the vote by mail process, okay, why don't you send yourself $100, right? Put it in an envelope, send yourself $100 and put that through the U.S. postal system. Not trying to knock U.S. postal workers. Love you guys. But it can you wouldn't do it. Okay. Why would you mail yourself, $100 and risk losing that money? You're going to risk losing that money through the U.S. Postal Service. So anyway, so the permanent absentee ballots, they've got that in the state of Michigan. They've expanded early voting. They're adding more drop boxes, and we're doing this all here in the state of Illinois as well. In fact, we've gone as far as to automatically register people. So people that have no idea that they're even registered to vote. Okay. The point is they want to flood our voter rolls with people who don't vote, have no intention of voting, and they're going to request vote by mail ballots in their name and cast those vote by mail ballots in their name. And it just opens up all of this. I mean, the 16, 17-year-olds being pre-registered to vote, expanding early voting, permanent absentee voting, all of this just subjects the election process, to nefarious actors who can steal an election or, commit election fraud. I mean, this opens up the system to fraud. And people who say, don't you dare question the election. I'm coming for you if you do. Local certifiers, if you don't certify the election, we're going to come for you. That's pretty scary. Jocelyn Benson. Oh, man, blink twice, Michigan, if you need help. Let us know if you're all right. I mean, honestly, these people are probably living in like a Venezuelan dictatorship. That was creepy. The way she said, we're going to come for you if you don't certify that election. Okay. Michigan, I feel bad for them. They have had to deal with Gretchen Whitmer during COVID. She had quite literally a Fauci pillow that she rests her head on at night. I'm not even making that up. Gretchen Whitmer told everybody about how much she loved her Fauci pillow. It was a pillow with Fauci's face on it. The winters are harsh there. They get it. Where I'm a Midwesterner. But you don't have to be a glutton for punishment. Vote these people out. They're sickos. She threatened you. She quite literally threatened you if you question the election at all. And I gave you all of the reasons why you should question the election. Pre-registering 16 and 17-year-olds for an election? Nobody's ever heard of that before. Why are you doing that? It's to inflate and bloat up your voter rolls. You're bloating up your voter rolls so that way nefarious people can commit election fraud. That's why you're doing it. That's why you've got the permanent absentee mail-in ballots. That's why you've expanded early voting. And we've done that here in the state of Illinois. Okay, so it'd be great if we had local election authorities who, had the cojones to say, I'm not going to certify this election. Something looks fishy here. Everything looks fishy here for all the reasons that I've listed. But you don't have to be a glutton for punishment, Michigander. I get that the winters are harsh, but why further destroy your life by voting these people in? Not to mention, Michigan also has a big weed problem, actually, where dispensaries are just popping up everywhere, and it's starting to take effect on communities. It's worse than California, actually, when it comes to the dispensaries. There's way too many of them, and people, even those who enjoy the grass, the devil's lettuce, right? They're starting to say, hey, there's too many dispensaries. It's starting to take a toll on our communities. Midwest liberals, they've got to realize at some point these Democrats, they have destroyed their policies are just not what it used to be. Okay, this is not the Democrat Party you grew up with. It just doesn't exist now. These people are radical. So my heart is breaking. My Midwestern heart is breaking for those of you in Michigan. I hope that you're okay. Are you being held against your will in Michigan? So I've got to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back. I got to tell you a little bit about another Democrat telling her party to go pound sand. Actually, she joins the GOP. There's also this salon owner. She posted this video that I think you're going to get a kick out of. She talks about how she has to pay taxes for payroll. So small business owners, you guys are going to want to not miss this next segment on Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Yes, that woman is absolute nut. Like, look at this woman. She's a psycho. Look at her. Absolute psychopath. I just can't believe that she even said something to that effect of like, oh, we're going to come for you if you question the results of the election. What? We're going to come for you. Okay. So let's talk about this salon owner. I want to get to this story. I probably won't have time for this mayor. He's big mad. This Denver mayor is saying that residents saying mean things about the newcomers, aka illegal immigrants. It's a bad thing that they're saying mean things about the newcomers. Now, as I told you yesterday, Aurora, Colorado, they're dealing with Venezuelan gangs. They took over an apartment building, and really, this is an act of terrorism where you have a Venezuelan gang holding up people in these apartment buildings, and they've taken over these apartment buildings. It's quite sad. So we'll get to that, but be sure to smash that like button. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
sure you are staying within your means and your budget. That's your best business report. Invested in you.
Hi, I'm Ron Krzyzewski, Chairman and CEO of Stifel. Financial advisors, let's face it, if you're not growing your practice or losing market share, Stifel is a growing, entrepreneurial, advisor-centric firm built for successful advisors like you. There's a reason why 148 financial advisors joined Stifel last year. Come join us and find out why Stifel is the firm where success meets success. Visit www.choosestifel.com. Stifel Business and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and LLC.
Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Yes, we were talking a lot about Michigan. We were talking a lot about Michigan and the Michigan Secretary of State saying that she's going to come for you if you certify the election, you local election authorities. And God forbid you cast any kind of doubt on the elections, especially after, we're pre-registering 16 and 17-year-olds. And don't worry, we're sending you a permanent absentee voting ballot. And we've expanded early voting, and we're also adding more drop boxes, too. So, why are you casting doubt on the elections? Why would you be doing that? I feel so bad for Michigan. Okay, before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about a salon owner, a small business owner. And if you're a small business owner, you're really going to like this segment. Your income comes from your employer, okay? And your employer has to pay tax just to pay you. Okay, so just to pay you, your employer has to pay a tax, payroll taxes. Then you pay a tax on that money that was already taxed. Okay, and then you use your taxed cash to buy things that are also taxed. Okay, so you have to pay a tax on that money that was already taxed. Then you have to pay more taxes to use that money to buy things that have tax associated with them. So once a year, you also have to pay the government more money during tax season. So this is on top of paying taxes to just live in your home. And in addition, inflation, which is technically a tax. Your employer pays a tax to just pay you. Then you pay tax on that money that was already taxed, your income tax. You live in the state of Illinois, you have an income tax. Then you're taxed on buying things with that money that you've earned. It's so sad because it's unclear where the government got this power to tax the masses into oblivion. I feel like just breathing is like they can tax the sunrise, they can tax the trees, they can tax the way you breathe. So the people from the Boston Tea Party have got to be rolling in their graves right about now. So several workers, they were shocked to discover that their employer paid $272,000 to the government just for payroll taxes in the last 3 years. This is quite a clip. So it looks like it's a salon where she's got a bunch of hairdressers employed, and she's a small business owner. And she starts filming and asks the girls, the beauticians, hey, can you guys guess how much I've paid in payroll taxes just in the last?
So we're going to take a guess. Who can guess within the last 3 years how much I have had to pay payroll taxes to just be able to pay you guys, which are all worth it, but this is a government issue. How much do you think I've paid in payroll taxes? It's just a tax that I pay to pay you guys. That makes sense.
In 3 years.
In the last 3 years.
Oh, 3 years.
In the last 3
I'm
years.
gonna say 60,000. I think 80,000.
I said 100,000.
I'm gonna go 85. 90.
Okay. You want to weigh in, Liana?
What?
How much you think in the last 3 years I've had to pay in payroll taxes?
45,000.
Okay. Are you all ready?
No.
Drum roll. You want to guess? 1,000? $272,000 to the U.S. government just to pay people that you will also pay your taxes on as well. And then when you go to buy something, you will also be taxed on the item that you are purchasing.
I feel awful.
No, don't feel.
I'm gonna
You're
go.
also,
Yeah.
and then you get paid, and then your paycheck's half of that because you're also paying taxes. And then when you go to purchase something, you will be paying taxes.
And we pay for the same thing.
The U.S. dollar is taxed 1,000,000 times before it even ends up in someone's name. So.
Oh boy, I mean, this is quite the clip. The shock is real. The average person could not even comprehend the cost of running a business. I feel so bad for small business owners. We want to help you, Cities 92.9. We have cost-effective marketing. You can always reach out to me, 309-451-9299. But it doesn't make any sense. Giving the money to the government to supply someone with a wage. Okay, so the Democrats, they're all for taxes, right? And they're like always about fair wages, right? I think in the state of Illinois this year, it really bothered me. They were like, everybody deserves a free wage. And they were trying to raise the minimum wage or raise servers' wages to above minimum wage or over minimum wage, I think, or at least to minimum wage. Yeah, to minimum wage. That's what the state of Illinois is wanting to do, where they, you have to make a minimum wage as a server, which, if you're a tipped employee, we've already got a process. If you don't make minimum wage, then you have to communicate that with your employer and prove that you didn't make minimum wage from your tips, and then they make up the difference. Okay, so we already have a system in place that ensures nobody is making below minimum wage in the state of Illinois. But that's not good enough for them. So everybody, all the Democrats were all for this, obviously, because they hate accountability. They hate that tipped workers have to go and be accountable and say, hey, I didn't make minimum wage. And I mean, let's be honest here. If you're not making minimum wage as a tipped worker, you're probably not that good as a tipped worker, as a server. It's very hard to do to not make minimum wage. But even if you do, for some odd reason, if you don't make minimum wage at the end of your 2 weeks there, your pay period, you would communicate with your employer that, hey, I didn't make minimum wage for this pay period. You have to make up the difference. And they're supposed to do that. So the shock is very clear here. And like I said, the Democrats, they're all about fair wages, fair wages, fair wages. You want to know why? Because they want more and more of that wage to go up because they make more money as the wages go up. That's why they're for boosting the minimum wage up to $15 an hour, because they take a percentage of that. They tax you on your wages. You have to give the government in order to even supply a wage. So the owner couldn't have said it better. She said $272,000 just to pay people. You'll pay with your taxes as well via an income tax, because the government takes a portion of your check as well via your income tax. And then you have to go buy something, and then you're taxed on that purchase, that individual product. Say you go buy a coffee, there's sales tax, right? The US dollar is taxed 1 million times, 1 million times. So congrats to our employees. They're probably all conservative now, fiscally conservative. And I love the best comment from the group here of beauticians. They say, we used to go to war over taxes. Yeah, now your taxes fund wars. So we used to go to war over taxes 1776. Yeah. What a coincidence. Kind of interesting. Now, instead of going to war over taxes, our taxes fund their overseas wars. So the number does not include the employer's income herself, which is also taxed. And the other taxes that come with operating and running a business. So while small business is struggling, and they're struggling more than ever before, the Democrats are vowing that all the problems will be solved only if the government taxes you more. Okay, all your problems, it's going to be solved because Kamala Harris, she wants capital gains tax. She wants to tax you on money that you don't even have. You're going to have to take out a loan to pay your taxes to the government. Okay, she says, oh, my tax plan is intended to make the rich pay their fair share, but the poor are the ones who really pay the price, and that's not what they'll tell you. The burden is always felt by the employers or employees and the consumers. Okay, the increase in corporate tax means slower wage growth, slower hiring periods. And the rich guy, he won't have to pay this burden, but the little guy will. If you're not hiring, the little guy is out of a job. If you're increasing the corporate tax, that means slower wage growth. So the little guy always suffers. Kamala Harris, she's going to pretend that she's taxing the millionaires and the billionaires, but really the burden rests on you. The government extorts the masses to hand the fruits over of their labor to people who don't deserve it, which is the government. They're public sector weirdos who don't make a product, they don't provide a service, and everyone is better off when taxes are less. I'm sorry, the less taxes people pay, people are better off. I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back.
SNAP benefits become a sticking point that's holding up the new farm bill. 1 out of every 7 Illinoisans are reported to now be receiving federal food assistance, leaving the state with 247,383 more SNAP recipients than before the pandemic. People struggling, and inflation now being what it is, State Representative Michelle Ford argues that the government should be doing even more to help people stay afloat.
When we increased the SNAP benefit during the pandemic, it was much more supportive for families. So now we're back down to 3% support, and it's not enough.
And it shows that those city assistants are spread out across the entire state. I'm Jim Talamonte. News on the air, on the web, on your app, and on Alexa. I'm Tom Davis.
This is often the first question a woman needs answered when she comes to the Pregnancy Resource Center. What now is the second question. Living Alternatives Pregnancy Resource Center is committed to provide excellent care, compassionate support, and honest information to those facing pregnancy decisions in a safe and loving environment. Living Alternatives needs your help to encourage and support women in Bloomington Normal. Make your donation or find out more ways to get involved at pregnancyresourcecenter.org. Start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Vous êtes qui? Vous êtes d'où? Babbel's bite-sized lessons make it easy to learn words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, how's your French going? You can say, Rappelle à la maison, facilite grand apprentissage du réveil. Et cela peut prendre 15 minutes par jour.
You can learn another language. It starts with Babbel. Language for life.
Woohoo! Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Now, folks, you have a blessed Labor Day. I hope that you have a lot of hot dogs, a lot of burgers. I hope that you spend some time with the kids. We are going to be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. You guys can also subscribe to my YouTube channel on And the way you do that, type it in your search bar, Conservative Cat Show. You can also find me on Rumble. That's Cities 92.9. Tomorrow we'll be back at it. And I hope you guys have a blessed day and a blessed Labor Day. And take a rest because it's kind of taxing to work so hard, and the fruits of your labor keep going to the people who don't deserve it. Less taxes people pay, the better off everyone is. So take a rest from propping up the public sector and propping up losers who don't make anything goods or services or provide any services. Bye-bye. I love you. Talk to you tomorrow.